ॐ दक्षिणास्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशववामन कृष्ण पाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुराः सुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। Now we are coming to almost the end of the 13th chapter, where Lord Krishna is summing up the entire 13th chapter and giving the phalam or the results of this knowledge. Which knowledge? The knowledge of Kshetra, Kshetrajna, the knowledge of what Jnanam and Nyayam is, and the knowledge of what Purusha and Prakriti is, and ultimately that knowledge by which one is able to differentiate between Kshetra and Kshetrajna and abide in oneself as Kshetrajna Swarupa. All that is there around is nothing but Kshetram or Prakriti. Who am I? I am that Kshetrajna or Purusha or the Gneyam, which is nothing but of the nature of Sat, Chit, Atma. And that which in which the entire Jagat is created, in the sense it appears, it exists, and then ultimately it resolves. And when one understands this knowledge of Kshetra and Kshetrajna, and really abiding in the understanding that I am the Kshetrajna and this entire Jagat, including my body, mind, sense complex, is Kshetram, which is Mithya, and Aham Purushaha Kshetrajna Yeva Satyam. I am the real Paramarthika or the absolute reality. This knowledge, what does it do? It frees a person from bondage, which we call as moksha. And here, Bhagwan gives the phalam of this knowledge in a little bit of a different way. And we started seeing what Bhagwan talks about the ultimate benefit of this knowledge for a sthita prajna or for a jnani, where we saw in the 27th verse that Bhagwan said, this person, this knowledge gives a person the samyak darshanam. What is samyak darshanam? The clarity of perception. What is this clarity of perception? In the clear understanding that I am a mixture of Kshetra and Kshetrajna, Prakriti and Purusha, and really speaking, in reality, I am the Kshetrajna consciousness Swarupi Atma. This clear vision, which is called as Samyak Darshanam, is what is the important characteristic of a Sthita Prajna or a Jnani. And in the 28th verse, we saw that. What else does he see? What else is the benefit that is got by a person who understands this? Amritatvam. Amritatvam, or understanding that I have never been mortal. I have always been this immortal Atma. Whatever comes and goes, whatever has mortality is nothing but the kshetra, this body. And therefore, I need not fear mortality because I don't die, I don't come, I don't go. I am that birthless, deathless, anadi Atma. So this Amritatvam is realized. We can't say Amritatvam is God because for the kshetram or for the body, it is always mortal. Whereas Atma, I, the real me, is ever immortal. And this knowledge gives me the clarity in understanding that I have always been and I will ever be this immortal Atma Swarupa. Therefore, immortality or Amritatvam is the next result. Then, now today we'll go to the 29th verse where Lord Krishna describes another benefit or phalam of this knowledge. And here he says that, see, all our samsara is because I consider myself to be the karta and bhokta. In the sense, I am the doer of actions and I am the experiencer of the karma phala. So, samsara or bondage is nothing but kartritvam bhoktritvam. Where does the kartritvam and bhoktritvam belong? Where does the action really take place? Where is the locus of action in this mixture of Atma and Anatma? The Prakriti or the Anatma or the body mind sense complex is where all the action is taking place. And who am I? As told in the previous verse, I am a absolutely clear Anumanta, Upadrishta Anumanta. We saw that where? We saw that in the 22nd verse, we saw that. Upadrishta Anumanta. By my mere presence, I bless all the activities that are happening in the Kshetram, body, mind, sense complex. Therefore, the Kartritvam, the Bhoktritvam belong to the body, mind, sense complex, the Kshetram. I, the Atma, am neither the doer nor the experiencer. So the karma doesn't belong to me, nor does the karma phala belong to me. Therefore, this akartritvam is really speaking the release from bondage for a person who has understood this. Jivan Mukti is nothing but that. I am not the karta. Whatever is happening, whatever action is happening at the level of the body, mind, sense complex according to its prarabdha and Ishvara Sankalpa. Whereas I, this consciousness, is merely a witness blessing these actions that are taking place. We saw that in the 5th chapter, Sprishan, Shrunvan, Sprishan, seeing, tasting, smelling. What is happening? Indriyani indriyartheshu vartante aham na kinchit karomi. What is happening as in any action is ultimately a vyavahara or transaction between the body mind sense complex anatma and the name and form rupi anatma jagat. Then who am I? I am neither the karta nor the bhokta. And our entire samsara is only because of kartritvam bhoktritvam. I think that I am the doer. So there is always a regret, shame, guilt of actions done in the past, anxiety, fear about what actions I'll have to do in the future, and also a kind of a regret and dukkha for all the karma phalas that I have gone through. Therefore, freedom from kartritvam, this is the most important benefit which releases this Jivan Mukta, this Jnani, from the bondage of samsara. So what does he say? Prakrityaiva cha karmani kriyamanani sarvashah yah pashyati tathatmanam akartaram sapashyati. 29th verse. What he says is, all the karmas prakrityaiva cha karmani kriyamanani, all the actions are sarvashaha, always, every time, are happening only in the prakriti or kshetram, the body mind sense complex. Prakrityaiva kriyamanani karmani, all the time. And who am I? I am akartaram tatha atmanam saha pashyati. Yaha pashyati, the one who sees oneself as the akarta atma. And whatever action is happening, the karta is nothing but the prakriti. Prakrityaiva kriyamanani karmani sarvashaha. And who am I? Akartaram. I am the akartara atma. Then there is no kartritvam in me, the atma. I am the akarta atma. And what does he say? What Lord says? Yaha pashyati, saha pashyati. The one who understands this has clearly understood what Bhagwan means by this kshetra, kshetrajna, jnanam. And this knowledge that aham akarta, all the actions are prakritya eva kriyamanani. When this is understood, then he really sees. There is a clarity in his I see. Yaha pashyati sapashyati means the one who sees this really sees this. The meaning of this is that he has really understood, and this knowledge is the one which frees this person from the bondage of kartrutvam bhoktritvam. Now, the next one, the next benefit we see in the 30th verse. What is the other benefit that this person sees? Now let us see. Yada bhuta prithak bhavam ekasthamanupashyati tata eva cha vistaram brahma sampadyate tada. Now, this knowledge helps this person in understanding that this kshetrajna, this atma, this purusha is not only within the confines of this body. This purusha or kshetrajna is not only the content in this body, but it is the kshetrajna or the consciousness in every jiva, in every body mind sense complex. Not only that, not only this atma is within every container or the body mind sense complex, it is this consciousness which is spread all pervading everywhere, and we call it Brahman. We have seen that all pervading Atma. So the stages of understanding Atma Jnanam is, I have told it in some other context earlier also. The first thing in Atma Anatma Viveka, what is told is, I now don't know. I am a mixture of Anatma, body, mind, sense complex, and Atma. So the first step in Vedantic teaching is that, look, the body, mind, sense complex, you are not the body, mind, sense complex. You are the content consciousness within this body, mind, sense complex. That is the first stage of learning. So I'm not this body, but I'm the very content consciousness in this body. The second stage of Vedantic teaching is the same consciousness which is in this body, mind, sense complex, you, is the very same consciousness or existence or what is called as Atma or Brahman in every other being. Chara, achara, all beings, living beings, moving and non-moving. It is the same consciousness which is present in every body, mind, sense complex, in every container. That is the second step. And in the third stage, Vedanta says that, really speaking, this consciousness or Atma is not that in this body, in that body, in this body. Ultimately, whatever is there is nothing but this consciousness, and all the body, mind, sense complexes are located in this consciousness Atma, which is called as Brahman also. I've told you Atma, Brahman, Purusha, Kshetrajna, okay, Nyayam, all these are Paryaya Padas for that consciousness or Atma. So here the thing is that a person is able to see this consciousness not only in himself, but understands that whatever is there is nothing but this all pervading single ekam advitiyam consciousness. Vistaram, here he says, that which is all pervading, that which is abiding in everything, that which is available in everything. So ultimately, what is a body mind sense complex? What are different things, living and non living? Every one of these things is located in Atma. So, where did we start? Atma is located in this body. And ultimately, what is the ultimate teaching? There is nothing but this one and only Ekam Advitiyam Atma Brahman, and in that, everything that is there in this Jagat, including the body, mind, sense complexes of all the sentient beings and all the objects, insentient objects, the whole universe is nothing but existing, situated, arising, and also resolving in this Brahmavastu or Atma. So ultimately, what is there is only this one Atma Swarupa. So he says that Yada Bhuta Pritak Bhavam. Initially, it is seen that all the jivas are different with their different content consciousness. But then Ekastham Anupashyati. What does he do? Ultimately, what he saw initially, as if the consciousness is divided into different body, mind, sense complexes, ultimately he understands that there is one ekastham, there is one body, there is one consciousness in which the entire jagat is situated. Tatayeva cha vistaram brahma sampadyate sada. And he understands that who am I then? I'm not merely this consciousness available here, but I am that all pervading Brahman. Aham Brahma Asmi Iti. Let's take an example for this. Now we say this is a room, and I say this room space. Okay, Matha Akasha we can call it. This is a room space. It is a bedroom space. Then I go outside and say this is the living room space. This is the kitchen space. Okay, ultimately, space is within this room, or all the rooms are within this space. Now, if you really see, initially, what do I say? The space available within the four walls, which I call as the drawing room area, I say this is the drawing room space. And then I say so many divisions of space, I say. And then I say there is a space in this house, there is a space in the next house, there is a space in that particular house, and that is the space, how much it is, so many square feet by so many square feet, or whatever it is. But ultimately, if I really look at it, what is the reality? There is one indivisible space in which all the rooms, all the houses, everything that is there is situated. And the space cannot be divided. It is indivisible, one and only space in which everything is situated. And because of the upadhi of a particular room, because of the four walls of the room, I say this is actually a room which has space in it. That is not correct. Actually, it is the space which has got every possible room situated in it. And when the four walls are broken, it is not that this space is going to merge with the main space or Maha Akasha. There has never been any difference at all. So, what does it mean? Another benefit is that the person who has understood this knowledge realizes that I am that Brahman. I am that all pervading Brahman. I am that all pervading existence, consciousness, Sat, Chit, Ananda, Atma. And in me, the whole Jagat is appearing. In me, the whole Jagat is existing. In me, this Brahman, the whole Jagat is resolving at the time of Pralaya. That is why it is said, Mayeva Sakalam Jatam, Mayi Sarvam Idam Stitam, Mayeva Layam Yati, Tad Brahma Advaya Asmi Aham. Kaivalya Upanishad says that. Who's that? Mayeva. In me, Brahman. Okay. Sakalam Jatam. This whole world is born. Mayeva Sthitam. In me, this consciousness or Brahman, the whole world is situated. Mayeva Layam Yati. In me, this entire Jagat is resolved. And who am I? Tad Brahma Advayam Asmi Aham. I am that Advayam Brahma. See the expansion of the vision here. The expansion of the vision from Aham to Ayam Atma Brahma. Aham Brahmasmi. This is the Mahavakya. This is the teaching of the Upanishads that I am not a limited individual Jiva. I am this unlimited Brahman. And it is this consciousness in which the whole universe is born, exists, and disappears. Now, the next benefit that I understand from this is that here, this Atma I don't have any gunas. I am the Nirguna Gunatita Atma. Now, this is an introduction to the next chapter, the 14th chapter, where we see Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, where this Atma or Brahman is described as that without any attributes. So, this is almost like a introduction to the 14th chapter. And what does he say in the 31st verse? अनादित्वात् निर्गुणत्वात् परमात्मायमव्ययः शरीरस्थोऽपि कौन्तेय न करोति न लिप्यते. Asangatvam and Nirgunatvam of Atma or this consciousness. What is the meaning of Asangatvam? I, the Atma, this consciousness, is present in and through the entire body mind sense complex, but then it is not affected by anything that is happening in the body mind sense complex. No kartritvam of the body mind affects it, no bhoktritvam of the body mind affects it. Any problem with the body mind does not affect the Atma. So there is no lepanam, and therefore it is said that this Atma is Asanga. Atma or Brahman is Asangaha. What is the meaning of Asanga? Not having any kind of a Sangha or association with the Prakriti or the body mind sense complex at all. Therefore, any problem with the body mind sense complex, any dosha, any guna of the body mind sense complex cannot affect the Atma. Therefore, Atma is Asangaha. Asangatvat, it is Nirguna also. Since it is one and only, Ekam, Advitiyam, Niravayavam, it does not have any kind of parts in it, not affected by what it is associated with. Therefore, it is Gunatita also, attributeless. So, here he says that Anaditvat Nirgunatvat. Because of this Anaditvam means what? This Atma is never born, it never dies, it is Anadi. It is imperishable and it is eternal. Nirgunatvat. Because of it being not affected or afflicted by any attributes. Attributes are associated with what? With matter. Any attribute belongs to a matter principle, whereas Atma is pure consciousness. No attributes can be allocated to pure existence, consciousness, Atma. Therefore, Anaditvat, this Atma Brahman being Anadi, Nirgunatvat, because it is Nirguna, it is also called Paramatma Ayam Avyayaha. This Paramatma, that consciousness, we saw that in the one of the previous verses, Paramatma iti uktaha, isn't it? What was that? Bharta, that is again in the 22nd verse. Upadrishta anumanta cha Paramatma iti cha api uktaha. So also this consciousness is called Paramatma and it is Avyayaha, imperishable, which does not waste. Why? Because it is Anadi and also it is Nirguna. Therefore it is Avyaya. And where is this Atma situated? Sharirasthopi he Kaunteya. This Atma, Brahman, is available as the very Antaryami. Antaryami, Ishvara, in every living being. Hriddeshe Arjuna Tishtati. It is going to be said in the 18th chapter by Lord Krishna. This I, this consciousness is situated in every Jiva's heart. So here he says, Sharirastopi Kaunteya. Hey Arjuna, Though this Atma is in and through the body mind sense complex, this Atma is in and through the entire Prakriti, all names and forms. Na karoti na lipyate. Being Anadi, being Avyaya, being Nirgunatvat, being all pervading, being Asanga Atma, Asangatvam, it is not affected or involved in any of the actions done by the body mind sense. Na karoti, it is akarta. Na lipyate, does not get affected by what happens in the body mind sense complex. So this asangatvam, how can we explain this? It is said that this Atma or consciousness is immanent in everything, still it transcends everything. Can you see the meaning? It is immanent, means what? It is in and through everything. There is no place where Atma or Brahman is not present. It is present everywhere, in and through everything, in and through matter principle, even the smallest matter principle or the largest matter principle, in and through the matter principle. This consciousness, existence, Atma pervades, it is immanent. At the same time, it is not affected by what it is pervading. It is not affected by what it is supporting. Therefore, it is transcendent of all the matter which it pervades. Matter gets or borrows existence and consciousness from Atma. Atma or Brahman is the ultimate truth, what we call as the absolute truth or the Paramarthika Satyam. And entire matter principle, including my body mind sense complex, is of a much lower order of reality. Here it is said that there are different orders of reality, the ultimate truth and the experiential truth. Atma or consciousness is the ultimate truth, that which is anadi, nirguna, avyaya, akarta, abhokta, Sarvagatah, Sthanuhu, Achala, Kutastha. All these words are given to Atma only because of its the subtlest of the thing and pure consciousness principle. It pervades in and through the entire matter principle, whatever it may be. But it is asangaha. It does not get affected by the matter principle. Why? Because the matter principle is only an experiential reality, vyavaharika satyam, whereas Atma or consciousness is the paramarthika satyam, the ultimate absolute reality. And when we understand this, that who am I? I am this Atma, consciousness, immanent in the entire matter Jagat, but not affected, Asanga, totally. Then what is it? It's freedom, isn't it? I am there in the Jagat. I do all the actions are done by this body, mind, sense complex. I play my role the way it has to be played. I play out my prarabdha, fulfill my prarabdha. I become an instrument in the hands of Ishvara. But in and through this, nothing really affects me. I'm not bound by any of the things that happen in the Prakriti or the matter principle. Then, Bhagwan now tries to tell us how we can think of this Atmaswarupam, because what we have seen is that this is something which is very, very difficult to understand, because this principle Atma or this consciousness principle Atma or Brahman, Sukshmatvat, because of its extreme subtle nature, it is not something which can be grasped by any of the sense organs. It is avyaktaha. At the same time, it cannot be thought of by the mind. It is achintyaha. In that case, how do we understand this Atma? And how do we understand this asangatvam of this Atma? Especially that I, the Paramarthika Satya Atma, I, the consciousness Svarupa Atma, is not affected by anything that happens in the Jagat or in this body mind sense complex. I am Asanga Atma. we have some Nididhyasana mantras, shlokas, extremely beautiful one, which can be taken for Nididhyasana. They're called Nidhyasana. In that, Asangoham, 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 Punaha, Punaha, Satchidananda Rupoham, Ahamevaham Advayah. Then there's one of the, mantras that is there. You can call it a shloka, you can call it Nididhyasana mantras, they are called as. Now, so I'm Asanga. How do I understand the Asangatvam? What's the meaning of Asangatvam? I'm immanent in the entire matter, transcendent of it. I'm in and through the matter principle, not affected by the matter principle in any way. How do we understand it? Bhagwan Krishna himself gives two examples. One is the example of space and one is the example of light. So in the 32nd and 33rd verse, Bhagwan describes the space and light, and with these examples, one can understand the asangatvam of Atma. And what is this Atma? Nothing but I myself, the ultimate reality, the ultimate truth, Paramarthika Satyam. So in the 32nd verse, Bhagwan says, Yatha sarvagatam saukshmyat akasham nopalipyate sarvatravasthito dehe tathatma nopalipyate. Now the example of space is given here. We must be very careful that Atma is not space. Atma is the very karanam of space also. But as an example, it is given to understand the asangatvam on Atma. He says, Yatha sarvagatam akashaha. Akasha is what? Space. It is sarvagatam. It is everywhere. At the same time, it cannot be perceived by any sense organs or the mind. Why? Saukshmyat, because of this subtlety. But still, then we understand that there is a space. Why? Because it provides for the things in the Jagat. Avakasha Pradatru is Akasha. Means what? It makes place for everything to exist. Now, I can't see the space, correct? But then I can infer that there is space because everything, it is giving an opportunity for everything to exist. I am sitting here, so the space must be there. Otherwise, where can I sit? If there is no space, where can one be? Where can one's house be? Where can the entire Jagat be? So he says that Akashaha is Sukshmaha, like Brahman. Akasha is Sarvagatam. Everywhere, wherever it is, this manifest Jagat, wherever it is there, Akasha or space is there. And it is Sukshma, so much Sukshma that we can't even avail of it, we can't even make out, we cannot perceive it, except that it echoes the sound, so we know that there is space. Because the one dharma of space is what? Sound, Shabda, is the only attribute of space. Again, care of Tattva Bodha. What is the meaning of space? This Shabda, it can conduct sound, that's all. Therefore, in echo, what do we have? The presence of space is proved by the echo, also by the avakasha that it provides for every matter, every gross matter to exist in it. But then it is not affected by what is happening here, isn't it? Though the space is there in and through the entire manifest universe, the space is not affected by what is happening. Correct? Isn't it? There may be a fight going on, but nothing happens to the, space there. There may be a war going on, nothing happens to the space. It rains, the space does not get wet. There is a fire, the space does not burn. Correct? So what does it mean? Because of its sukshmatvam, this akasha is asanga from the gross matter principle as well as from the other elements also. The vayu moves about in it, but vayu cannot affect it. Fire cannot affect it. Water cannot affect it. The earth, forget, it cannot do anything. Like even, if there are any, these astras and shastras cannot destroy space. So what he's saying here, though the space is present in and through all matter, the space is not affected by anything because of its sukshmatvam. What about Atma then? Atma is subtler even than space, because space is a product which has come from Atma or Brahman. If the product space itself is not affected by the matter principle which it supports, how can Atma or Brahman be affected by the matter principle that which is pervading? Okay, so here he says, Yatha sarvagatam akasham saukshmat nopalipyate. It does not get affected by anything here. There is no lepa, na nopalapyate. Sarvatra avasthito dehe tatha atma na upalipyate. Nopalipyate na upalipyate. Similarly, he says, this Atma, which is avasthitaha dehe, in every body, tatha na upalipyate, does not get sullied, does not get affected. So, to give an example of asangatvam of Atma, generally the space example is given. But remember again, Atma is not space, because space is jada. It is an element, elemental, whereas Atma is Chetana Tattvam, whereas space is the Jada Tattvam. Therefore, we have to remember that an example should be taken only wherever their sadharmyam is there. One should not extend the example, because an example only gives similarities between two things. You cannot extend the example completely. So the asangatvam of Atma is explained here by Bhagavan by giving an example of space here. And another example Bhagavan gives about the light. He says, Yatha prakashayatyekaha kritsnam lokamimam ravihi kshetram kshetri tatha kritsnam prakashayati bharata. Arjuna, I'll give you another example for asangatvam. Ravihi, the sun, the light of the sun, lights up the entire universe. But the light of the sun is not affected by what it lights up. Correct? So that's why it is in Manisha Panchakam, it is said, Bhagwan Shankaracharya's Manisha Panchakam, it is said that, this, whether the sunlight shines upon a Chandala, space, dirty space where the Chandala lives, or, it's an example of a dirtiest place. Sunlight may light up or sunlight may fall upon the dirtiest thing on the Jagat, or sunlight may light up the most sacred thing in the Jagat. But the light which lights up everything in this Jagat does not get affected by the qualities or the attributes of what it lights up, isn't it? Whether the place is dirty or clean, whatever is happening in the presence of that light, a good thing may be happening, adharma may be happening, so many things may be happening which light lights up. But does the light get affected? Why talk about sunlight, even our regular light? Everything that is happening here is lighted up by this light. But is the light affected by what is happening here? Again, asangatvam. So here Bhagwan takes the example of Surya. Kritsnam lokam imam ravihi yatha prakashayati ekaha ravihi. This one sun prakashayati lights up kritsnam lokam imam, the entire world with all its good things, bad things, dirty things, clean things, everything. But then, and it lights up what? Kshetram, kshetri, tatha, kritsnam. It lights up the entire kshetra, the entire jagat, prakashayati. But it does not get affected by what it lights. So, just like space, which accommodates everything but does not get affected by what it accommodates, just like the sunlight, which lights up everything but does not get affected by what it lights up. Similarly, this Atma also, being in and through the entire kshetram or prakriti, body mind sense complex, and the entire nama rupatmakam prapancha outside, in spite of that, it is not afflicted. There is no lepa for it from any of the matter principle it supports. It is the very adhishtanam of the entire Jagat, but does not get affected by it. And he concludes this, the 34th verse is there, which concludes, he says, Kshetra Kshetrajnayorevam Antaram Jnana Chakshusha भूतप्रकृतिमोक्षञ्च ये viduryanti te param. So he says, the one who recognizes, the one who understands very clearly the difference between Purusha and Prakriti, by this, Shastrokta knowledge, the way Bhagwan has explained here, the way the Upanishads and Shastra explain what is Kshetra, what is Kshetrajna, what is Prakriti, what is Purusha, why you are not the Kshetram, why you are not the Prakriti, why you, this thing you call as I is Purusha or Brahman or Atma, in such a beautiful way that has been explained by Lord Krishna in and through all these chapters. And he says that this person who has understood the difference between Kshetra, Kshetrajnaror Yevam Antaram, the difference. Not merely knowing the difference is not sufficient. I should know among them who I am. I know the difference between Prakriti and Purusha, but my only confusion is who am I in this? Am I the Prakriti or the Purusha? I very clearly understand what is Kshetra and Kshetrajna, but I have only one doubt. Which of them am I? Am I the Kshetra or Kshetrajna? That's not the thing. The difference is known, and I should be able to see myself and abide in or identify myself as that consciousness, Kshetrajna, the Nyayam Brahma, and also the Purusha that has been talked about in these three sets of words. And the one who knows this clearly, Jnana Chakshusha, the one who understands it by the eye of wisdom, Jnana Chakshusha, through the teachings of the Shruti, by the Guru, which come out, which are talked about or taught by the Guru. Guru Mukhena Shastra Shravanam. With that, what happens? Te viduhu yanti, ye vidur yanti te param. They ultimately attain that paragati, they attain me, they attain moksha. What is the meaning of moksha? You are free here and now while living, Jivan Muktihi. And once this body falls, when its prarabdha is over, then this jiva does not come back again in search of another body, which is called as Videha Muktihi. Therefore, a person is free forever from bondage. Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishnarjuna Samvade Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yogo Nama Trayodashodhyayah. Now, I'll just give a brief introduction to the 14th chapter also. So the 13th chapter is, one of the most difficult, at the same time one of the most beautiful and the most subtle chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Yes, a little difficult to understand, but then that is the knowledge. Yes, it is difficult. That is Atmajnanam. If I am not able to understand it, there is no other way I can do except to prepare my intellect, become an adhikari, go through that again and again and again and again. And now in the 14th chapter, Bhagwan talks about the same Atma, Purusha, Brahman, Kshetrajna, Jneyam Brahma. Here he describes this Brahman or the Swarupam of Atma as the witness or the observer which is without any kind of gunas, nirguna Atma. In 13th chapter, what was talked about? In 13th chapter, the observer and the observed in the form of Kshetrajna and Kshetram was taken. And I or this Atma was resolved to be the witness or the observer. Now, this observer witness consciousness is again what was said nirgunatvat, anaditvat, sukshmatvat. So, this nirguna aspect of it is going to be highlighted in the 14th chapter. The 13th chapter talked about the difference kshetra, kshetrajna, observer, observe difference. And what kind of a prakriya did it use? Drik drishya viveka, we call it. Whatever is seen, I am not. I am the seer, the observer. Whatever I observe, the object of my observation, I am not. I am the observer consciousness. That was it. Here, the Atma is presented as Gunatita. Gunatita means that which does not have any intrinsic attributes like any other matter principle. And this 14th chapter is a small chapter, a very nice chapter, but at the same time, the whole focus in the 14th chapter is to describe this Kshetrajna or Purusha or Gneyam Brahma as Gunatita. Now, it is the name of the chapter is Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. So, what is the meaning of Gunatraya Vibhaga? Here, Bhagwan wants to say that all the gunas belong to the Kshetram and the Kshetrajna is Gunatita. And what are the gunas? We have already seen earlier that, Prakriti or Maya is Trigunatmika, correct? Trigunatmika Maya. Sattva, Rajas, Tama, three gunas are there, and Maya is a combination of the three gunas. And if Prakriti is the Upadana Karanam, if the Prakriti is the material cause, if Maya or Prakriti is the material with which the whole universe is made, then the attributes or the qualities of the Karanam or cause will reflect in the Karyam also. Correct? Okay. If whatever is the cause, whatever are the gunas of the cause are passed on or are inherent in the product also. So, if the entire Jagat is a karyam or a product of Prakriti or Maya, as explained in the 7th chapter, in the 9th chapter, 10th chapter, again in the 13th chapter. If that is so, then Maya with all the three gunas also are transferred to the entire karyam. Therefore, the matter is trigunatmikam. The entire matter or kshetram is having three gunas sattva, rajas, and tamas. Depending upon the prominence of one guna or the other, the way the matter presents may be different, but every matter principle, whether it is this body, mind, sense complex, which are also matter principles, or if it is any other name and form in the Jagat, all these being the products of Prakriti, being the products of Maya, are endowed with the three gunas sattva, rajaha, and tamo gunas. But that consciousness, which is inherent in and through the entire matter principle, that which is immanent in all the matter principle, which is Trigunatmikam, this Atma is Asanga. It is not affected by the attributes or the gunas of Maya or the manifest Jagat. Therefore, Atma is Gunatita. So we'll just introduce this. It's called Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. अथ चतुर्दशोऽध्यायः श्रीभगवानुवाच. Bhagwan is directly now talking because he's continuing the 13th chapter as though like after having given out all the Swarupa Lakshanas of Atma, now he wants to stress on the gunas. In the 3rd chapter, in the 4th chapter, there was a mention of the three gunas. And when Bhagwan talked about, the three gunas, how in different living beings, how the three gunas manifest, how a sattva guna pradhana individual is, how a rajoguna pradhana individual is, how a tamoguna pradhana individual jiva is. That was briefly mentioned in Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam, when Bhagwan talked about it in the fourth chapter. And later also, Brahmane Gavi Hastini, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, Brahmane Gavi Hastini, there also, he talked about different living beings with different predominant gunas there. But then after that, not much of importance was given to the gunas. But here now, in the 14th chapter, Bhagwan describes the three gunas which are present in the Prakriti and how the predominance of each guna, what it gives rise to in an individual jiva. Secondly, this Atma or Kshetrajna, that because of which this matter principle is existing, that because of which this Kshetram is existing, is totally Gunatita. So I, the Sakshi Chaitanya Atma of 13th chapter, is Gunatita. Where are all the gunas? The gunas only belong to the Prakriti or matter. So let us now go to the first verse. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Param Bhuyah Pravakshami Jnananam Jnanamuttamam Yajnatva Munayas Sarve Param Siddhimito Gataha. So here he says, Bhuyaha, again, Pravakshami. Very clearly, I am going to talk about what? Param Jnananam Jnanam Uttamam. Jnanam, Param Jnanam, Jnananam Uttamam Param Jnanam. I am going to talk about this. What is this? This knowledge. What kind of knowledge? That which is the highest knowledge. I'll again give you the same knowledge which is the greatest in the world. Jnananam Paramam Uttamam. Param. Param Uttamam. Paramam Jnanam. That which is the greatest, the highest. Now, there are two words here, Param and Uttamam. Both of them mean the same. Okay, Param Jnanam, Uttamam Jnanam. Both of them mean exalted knowledge, greatest knowledge. Both of them have the same meaning. Then why should Lord Krishna talk about Param Jnanam Bhuyaha Pravakshami? Again, Bhuyaha, I am going to give you this Param exalted Jnanam, knowledge. Jnananam Uttamam. That knowledge which is the most exalted of all branches of knowledge, I am going to give you. What is the reason why Bhagwan is expressing this? The highest, the exalted, again using two words for it. Now, what Bhagwan Shankaracharya says is that the knowledge itself is the greatest, number one, because it is that knowledge, knowing which there is nothing more to be known. That is the only knowledge which is supposed to be known, Nyayam, that which is supposed to be known. Bhagwan said in the previous chapter that that is the only thing which is supposed to be known. Nothing else is worth knowing, because anything else, the more you know, there is more to know in any Laukika Jnanam. But this Atmajnanam is the one where once I understand, once I know, it is done. This Param Jnanam or this Atmajnanam completely destroys ignorance at one stroke and releases me from all the bondage. Whereas all the knowledge of the Laukika Jnanam, any other knowledge, keeps me in bondage. It will never ultimately clear my ignorance about a particular thing. Isn't it? The more we know, there is more to know. Is there anyone in this world who can say, I know this branch of knowledge fully? Take music or mathematics or physics or whatever it is. Can anyone say that I know everything about it? No. I may know something, then I realize that there is something more to be known. It always remains incomplete. It is not a complete knowledge. It does not remove ignorance totally from me. Whereas this jnanam, this knowledge of the self in various ways which Krishna has given, and now he is going to give a different flavor to it, describing Atma as Gunatita. This knowledge is the highest and most exalted because of the very nature of this knowledge itself. That is the first thing. One word, Param. Secondly, Uttamam Bhai. The result that is got out of this knowledge is also the most exalted result, isn't it? Total freedom, moksha, once for all from this bondage. Can we say any other knowledge frees me forever? No. Actually, it causes more bondage. I start comparing myself with other people who know more than me. Arey, I don't know this, I should know this, something new has come, I should know this. So, knowledge of any other Laukika matter principle is something which always keeps me in bondage. Whereas this knowledge, the phalam is such that the most exalted phalam, total freedom from ignorance, total freedom from bondage. Yadgatva nanivartante tadhama parama mama. Again, you don't come back into this body, mind, sense complex, samsara rupi, samsarati again and again and again, coming in this circle, is this chakra of birth and death. It does not happen at all. Therefore, Krishna uses two words here. The very nature of this knowledge, by its very nature, it is the most exalted. Not only that, from the point of view of the phalam that it gives, also it is the highest knowledge that is there. Therefore, he says, Param bhuyah pravakshami jnananam jnanamuttamam yajnatva, knowing which munayah sarve. Muni, he uses the word. A muni here means an adhikari for this jnanam. Muni means an adhikari, the one who is fit for this knowledge. Sadhana chatushtaya sampanna adhikari. A person who has developed enough chitta shuddhi by karma yoga, enough chitta naischalyam by upasana, enough chitta vishalata by Vishwarupa Ishvara upasana. Such a person is an adhikari for this knowledge. And this adhikari is called as Muni here. Muni means manana shilaha, the one who is capable of receiving and absorbing this knowledge. So yajnatva munayaha, all the adhikaris of this knowledge, for this knowledge, sarve param siddhimito gataha. Param siddhim, which is the param siddhim? The ultimate siddhi is what? Moksha, freedom from samsara. Knowing this, understanding this knowledge, the adhikaris, the mumukshus ultimately free themselves totally from this bondage. Therefore, this same knowledge was called as Paravidya in the Mundakopanishad. Mundakopanishad, Aparavidya is what? The knowledge of all the other things, incomplete knowledge. Paravidya, Atmajnanam is called as Paravidya. And what did Bhagwan Krishna himself call this knowledge in the 9th chapter? Rajavidya. Paravidya, Rajavidya. What does this mean? This is that knowledge, if understood by a person who is an adhikari, who has the proper preparation of the intellect to receive and absorb this knowledge. There is nothing like that. It totally frees this person from bondage forever. Total destruction of ignorance. And therefore, hey Arjuna, I am going to talk about this knowledge, again this Atmajnana, from a different point of view. I will explain to here what are the gunas, where they belong, how the Prakriti is affected by these gunas, and how Purusha or Atma as Gunatita shines without getting afflicted. Asangaha Gunatita Atma. What is that Gunatita Atma? That is the knowledge that is going to be talked about in this chapter, which we will see from the next session. Om Nandantu Sadhaka Sarve Vinashyantu Vidushakaha Avastha Shambhavi Mestu Prasannostu Gurus Sada Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukham Apnuyat. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।